From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Good evening. About the downing of those 2 Libyan warplanes off that country's coast, the President of the United States warned today, in effect, we'd do it again under similar circumstances. Wearing a cap inscribed Commander-in-Chief, the President said it's necessary to impress the enemies of freedom in the world. He spoke aboard an aircraft carrier off the coast of California near his vacation headquarters. While on the carrier, he also got an ironically realistic look at U.S. air power involved in the combat. Leslie Stahl reports.
The President's brief voyage on the USS Constellation was planned weeks ago, yet the connection with yesterday's confrontation with Libya was unavoidable. The same kind of naval maneuvers, these off the coast of California. The same kind of aircraft carrier. Even the same kind of F-14s. The President talked about it.
Do you think you were awakened early enough?
Yes.
Are you trying to destabilize Gaddafi's government, Mr. President?
No. We responded as we will respond anywhere. When any of our forces are attacked, they're going to defend themselves.
You wouldn't be sorry to see Gaddafi fall, would you?
Well, I would think that diplomacy would have me not answer that question.
The President hasn't been on a U.S. naval vessel since he made the movie Hellcats of the Navy 24 years ago. Today, he addressed the battle group as Commander-in-Chief.
This ship represents a powerful force in an uncertain world, and we all sleep a little better at night knowing that you're on duty.
Ronald Reagan got the full treatment as Commander-in-Chief.
Attention in the pilot house. Commander-in-Chief has the helm.
And he had a choice view of the launch and recovery exercises. The President was seated on the flight deck in a chair with white muslin slipcovers for the weapons training exercises. Precision bombing by the A-7E Corsair attack squadrons. Dive bombing capability. The E-2C Hawkeye, the Navy's version of AWACS, a long-range air search radar plane. And a helicopter hover and rescue at sea. The finale, 3 escort destroyers rendered honors to the President, and 14 fighter planes flew over in a precise formation. Since Ronald Reagan started his vacation, he has described the Soviets as squealing on the edge of a nail. And decisions have been made about the neutron bomb, the F-16s for Israel, the budget commitment to increase defense spending, and the Libyan confrontation. Along with this trip today, the entire vacation has been orchestrated to send the Soviets a message that Ronald Reagan is fully determined to strengthen U.S. military power. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, with the President on the USS Constellation.
Amid all the reactions and comments about what happened yesterday off the Libyan coast, Jim McManus got one man's opinion today, a man with a possibly revealing insight.
Published just before the Navy's missile-firing exercise began off the coast of Libya, this item in Newsweek magazine said the Reagan administration would use the training operation to challenge Libya's leader, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. A retired Navy admiral who once commanded Mediterranean carrier battle groups in similar exercises off Libya believes the Reagan administration leaked its political intentions to make sure Gaddafi got the message.
This report, carried in a magazine with international circulation, transformed a routine, legal, valuable fleet training exercise into a political demonstration.
Encounters between U.S. and Libyan aircraft are not uncommon. One of the most serious in 1973 came when Libyan fighters opened fire on a U.S. C-130 83 miles south of Malta. Nixon administration sources later acknowledged the C-130 was an electronic spy plane, that it refused orders of the Libyan interceptors to accompany them and took evasive action before drawing cannon fire. It escaped undamaged. A former U.S. Navy pilot says that in the spring of 1973, he was ordered to provoke Libyan jets by flying his unarmed fighter off Libya's coastline with an armed escort of U.S. Navy planes 15,000 feet above him.
It was supposed to go up and fly at 15,000 feet in toward the coast, turn around, fly back toward the carrier, turn around, fly back in toward the coast, turn around, fly back out toward the carrier. very similar to those ducks you see in a penny arcade. And I began to question exactly what I was doing there, unarmed.
Did you think you were a target?
At that time, I thought I was basically a sitting duck.
Pentagon sources say they could not immediately confirm or deny McClintock's report. Pentagon sources insist it is not unusual that the operations plan for the recent Navy exercise was sent to the National Security Council at the White House for approval. President Reagan's top advisor, Edwin Meese, denies the administration used the Navy provocatively to test Colonel Gaddafi. But suspicions persist, especially in light of the Reagan administration's hardline attitude against the Gaddafi regime in Libya.
Is our administration so in doubt about the real power and strength and prestige of the United States that we have to goad a vicious, irresponsible despot who's despised, by the way, by most of the civilized world, into taking suicidal actions against us just so that we can publicly humiliate him?
And so there is the published report, the brief but instructive air battle, followed by suspicions and official denials. Whether the Reagan administration saw the Navy exercises as an opportunity to embarrass the troublesome Gaddafi and demonstrate a new political and military determination, that's the way it came out. Jim McManus, CBS News, the Pentagon.
In Libya itself today, a lot of angry talk, but no action. And as Don Cladstrip reports from Tripoli, not much either in the way of reaction, save for some saber rattling.
Angry demonstrators in Benghazi shouted anti-American epithets today following Wednesday's clash between U.S. and Libyan jets over the Mediterranean. Although the demonstration was vocal, there was no indication of any danger to the few thousand Americans who live and work in this country. The demonstration was directed solely at the U.S. government and President Reagan in particular, whom demonstrators charged ordered the U.S. jets to violate Libyan airspace and attack Libyan airplanes. Pictures and interviews with two Libyan pilots said to have been involved in the incident were shown on Libyan television. The pilots said that they were flying a routine reconnaissance mission when they were attacked by 8 U.S. fighter planes. The pilots claimed to have shot one American plane down, its smoke clearly visible as the craft plunged into the sea. No mention was made of any Libyan planes lost. As a result, most Libyans are laboring under the impression that Wednesday's incident was not a defeat, but a victory for their Air Force. But they are clearly angry, and they believe that the United States is out to undermine their government. Nevertheless, there have been no official threats of retaliation by Libya's government. No hint, for instance, that Libya is about to cut off oil to the United States. But that could change when Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi returns from Ethiopia and gives his reaction to what happened. Don Cladstrip, CBS News, Tripoli.
Thus far, only a vague reaction from Colonel Gaddafi himself. No direct reference to the duel in the air. Only a call for Arab nations to mobilize against what he called American provocations and terror. From Arab capitals today, quick, strong, and predictable public condemnation of the United States for downing those Libyan planes. In Moscow, though, a curious reaction. A knock at the United States, but not much of a boost for Libya. Apparently because the Kremlin doesn't fully trust Colonel Gaddafi, and there are likely some red faces in Moscow because the Soviet-built Libyan planes were no match for the Grumman-built American F-14s. The Navy today released some information about the two-man crews aboard each of the 2 American jets that knocked out the Libyan planes. Eric Ingberg tells us about those 4 American airmen.
The 4 naval officers are all members of the Black Aces, an elite fighter squadron based at Oceana Naval Air Station in Virginia. The squadron commander, Henry Kleeman, was the pilot of the first F-14, known as Tomcat 1. Kleeman is 38, comes from Clinton, Illinois, and graduated from the Naval Academy at Annapolis. His radar officer was 27-year-old David Venlett, another Annapolis graduate from Pottstown, Pennsylvania. Lieutenant Lawrence Michael Musinski of Houston, Texas, was the pilot of Tomcat 2. He's 28 and an Annapolis graduate. The Tomcat 2 radar officer was Lieutenant James Anderson, 29, from West Palm Beach, Florida, who graduated from the University of Florida. The wives of the 4 aviators would not grant interviews. They did issue a statement through the Navy saying they appreciated the support their husbands have received from the nation's leaders. The wives said many of their friends now say their husbands are heroes, but added, "To us, they have always been heroes." Eric Ingberg, CBS News, Norfolk, Virginia.
I love to sing. I love
to dance. And I love Nabisco's Wheat Thins a lot. They're my favorite snack. They're just loaded with natural whole wheat, and Nabisco bakes them this thin, so they're crisp, crunchy, and always delicious. Wheat Thins. You'll love them. One after the other.
Nabisco's Wheat Thins, the thin little cracker with the big wheat taste.
Boy, Art, I painted this last year, and it's already faded and rusted.
Well, if you'd used Rust-Oleum, you'd be getting ready to putt, not paint.
Rust-Oleum Special Primer penetrates rust and drives out air and moisture. Then the Rust-Oleum top coat forms a weather-tough bond that resists fading and rusting.
Gotta go.
Can't let the old game get rusty.
Win $10,000 in Rust-Oleum's Home Improvement Sweepstakes. Get the details in TV Guide, Reader's Digest, or at your Rust-Oleum dealer.
The mother said today, "We love those people. I trusted my baby's life to them." Now there are charges that love and trust were betrayed by doctors at a U.S. government hospital who didn't fully explain their reasons for treating patients with high doses of radiation. Bruce Hall has the story.
Before his death in 1968, 6-year-old Dwayne Sexton was treated for acute leukemia in an experimental radiation program at this hospital run by the Atomic Energy Commission in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. He was one of 194 patients over a 14-year period who were placed in specially designed chambers and systematically exposed to large doses of total body radiation. An article released today in Mother Jones magazine says previously unreleased government documents reveal another reason for the use of the radiation.
According to internal documents we've obtained, a major and hidden purpose of the experiment was to provide data on man's reaction to radiation for the space program and for the military.
Rosenberg said in effect, the patients became laboratory animals. Dwayne's mother said she was never officially notified of NASA's involvement in the project.
We love those people dearly, and I trusted my baby's life to them. And here, back in February, he came out with these reports from the research that Dwayne had been given this dose of radiation that had no aspects for Dwayne's improvements at all, when I would have never had him there if I'd known that this was what the intents were.
The scientist who ran the project says NASA did fund part of it, but the patient's individual doctors made all decisions on radiation dosage.
I didn't ever make a decision about what kind of a dose a person got, or how big it should be, or whether we only had 10 persons at this dose, we needed 20 more, something of that sort. The clinical staff probably would have laughed me out of the room or taped my mouth shut.
The project, which was stopped in 1974, was criticized in several AEC review reports. Dr. Peter Wernick, formerly of the National Cancer Institute, says a review of the documents indicates the medical procedures used were valid at that time.
I also don't think that it's inappropriate to collect data from clinical trials that may be of interest to another body of scientists. But I do think that it is important and indeed necessary and ethical to inform the patient or his guardian that such data is being collected and for what purpose.
A congressional committee will hold hearings next month into the procedures used at the Oak Ridge facility. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Washington.
If you received a pay raise last year, congratulations. But the Census Bureau says inflation more than wiped that out for most Americans. The Bureau reported today that median family income rose 7.3% in 1980 to more than $21,000. However, that translated into a 5.5% decline after discounting for inflation, the sharpest plunge since the government started compiling such statistics in 1947. One result of that was the increase of Americans living below the poverty level, from 11.7 to 13%. And the Bureau says inflation was an equal opportunity offender, hitting families of all races in cities and farms in all 4 of the nation's main geographic areas.
Hello, I'm Charlie McKee for Electrolux. And this is an America that used to be. A time when companies brought vacuum cleaners to your home, because that's the best place to judge a vacuum. Today, few companies do that. But Electrolux still does, because your home is still the best place to see why Electrolux is better. So open your door to Electrolux. Electrolux, your home is the best place to see why we're better.
The United States Postal Service handles 300 million pieces of mail a day. Well, that's their job. But that doesn't mean you have to put your important business letter into that pile. Now you have an alternative. Introducing the Federal Express Overnight Letter. It costs only $9.50 when you drop it off, and it gets delivered practically any place in the country overnight. Absolutely, positively.
OPEC oil ministers remain over a barrel tonight, failing once again at their Geneva meeting to achieve unity of mind on a unified price for their oil. The ministers did agree on one thing, to pass the buck by appealing to their respective heads of state to achieve what they could not, though the ministers will try again tomorrow. The crackle of gunfire went on for hours in Tehran today as Iran's Revolutionary Guard staged one of their biggest crackdowns yet on leftist dissidents. However, from his residence in exile in Paris, ousted Iranian President Bani Sadr told correspondent George Herman today that one of the biggest threats to Iran doesn't come from the left, it comes from the top.
Closely guarded by armed French police and by Iranians who refuse to allow themselves or his headquarters to be shown, Bani Sadr hopes to inspire a new Iranian revolution. Through an interpreter, he said the present regime is now breaking up, and he saw numerous signs that the Ayatollah Khomeini has lost much of his hold on the hearts of Iranians.
The most obvious one is that beforehand he was a kind of symbol of unity and trust. Today, he's a cause of division. He's asking the people to spy on each other. But what can you say about a religious man, 85 years old, who is supposed to represent hope, who is supposed to represent the spirit, the mind, and instead of that he shoots at people? Today they're executing people. They're massacring people.
When Khomeini dies, said Bani Sadr, there will be civil war in Iran. The army will probably not take part, and the Iranian people will decide their own fate. George Herman, CBS News, Paris.
The full interview with Bani Sadr will be aired this Sunday on the CBS News broadcast Face the Nation. On this 18th day of the air controllers' strike, the Transportation Department said President Reagan has rejected a request from the International Federation of Air Traffic Controllers that he resume negotiations with the strikers. That request, made a week ago, said the international body was holding off, at least until Saturday, any decision on sanctions against U.S. flights. But Transportation Secretary Lewis, replying for the president, said negotiations could not be resumed because the controllers broke federal law by going on strike against the government.
I'm Johnny Bench. This is Krylon Spray Paint, the other leading national brand. And here comes my fast pitch, so watch close. Krylon Special Formula goes on smooth, just like a professional finish. And just 12 minutes later, it's dry to the touch. No runs, no drips, no errors. The other brand's still tacky after 1 hour. Let's see it again. Krylon dry after 12 minutes, other brand still tacky after 1 hour. Did you catch that? Krylon, for a smooth, fast professional finish.
Hey, Fred. Game's about ready to start.
With the reception on my side, I may as well finish the yard work.
Now, you need a Radio Shack Super Color TV antenna like mine. Got it at a special purchase price, only $21.88.
What about installation?
Did it myself, saved the bundle. It's easy. The Shack's got all the cable and hardware you need.
Only $21.88? That's great.
Right. Come on in. Let's watch the game on my set.
You kidding? I'm going to Radio Shack to get my own Super Color antenna for $21.88.
Only at Radio Shack, a candy company.
Poland's newspapers were back on the stands today after a two-day blackout by Solidarity Union printers demanding a fairer shake in press coverage of their union. But the news that greeted Poles in the morning papers wasn't good. Higher prices for bread and the possibility of still lower rations of meat. The People's Republic of China, more than 900 million people strong, but struggling to overcome some serious weaknesses, in some cases with Western help. CBS News has just opened a bureau in Peking, and in his first full report from there, correspondent Bruce Dunning takes a look tonight at China's attempt to put behind the Cultural Revolution and forge ahead to meet the revolution of rising expectations among its people.
More and more, China is becoming a consumer society, not as Americans know it, but more than China has ever known. And the industries that serve the Chinese consumer are getting the most attention and the most investment in this country's determined drive to make itself a modern industrial state. The Chinese want more and better clothing, so textile mills are under pressure to produce more attractive and more durable fabrics. For the first time, factory managers are being told, study your market, listen to the buyers. Gone are the days when dreams were limited to the so-called three things that go round: a watch, a bicycle, a sewing machine. Millions can afford these now routinely. Consumer demands are becoming more sophisticated, while at the same time political enthusiasm declines. After the futile devastation of the Cultural Revolution, the Chinese people want some material benefits from all their struggles. Sensing this, the moderate leaders like China's strongman Deng Xiaoping reversed the traditional Mao Zedong policy of revolution first, technology second. But ambitions to modernize were bigger than wallets, and Chinese leaders quickly found themselves overextended, committed to projects they couldn't pay for. Even though industries like steel and petrochemicals are decades behind the rest of the world, desperately in need of modernization, ambitious development projects have been postponed, cut back, and in some cases canceled. Emphasis has turned to other areas, like computers. China's computers are considered 15 to 20 years behind the rest of the world. Much work in such industry is still done by hand, work done in other nations more quickly and more accurately by machine. But in China, there is an abundance of labor. People must be kept employed. More jobs must be created, not replaced by machines. That's why the current leaders, men chosen by Deng Xiaoping, are saying that economic rehabilitation, not politics, not revolution, will be the essential task for generations.
The success of this economic readjustment is essential to Deng Xiaoping and the men he is putting in power. If their ambitious plans should fail, these more moderate pro-American leaders could be dismissed from office. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Peking.
A clang of garbage can lids, then sporadic street violence in Northern Ireland's Catholic districts as the body of Michael Devine came home to Londonderry today, the 10th Irish Republican hunger striker to die in the Maze prison outside Belfast. Ironically, Devine died shortly after Northern Ireland began voting for a seat in the British Parliament, the seat won by the first hunger striker to die, Bobby Sands.
Here she is, the famous Inspector 12. She makes sure that Hanes' men's and boys' t-shirts and briefs are as good as we say they are. Inspector 12. She pokes. She stretches, and that's just the beginning. Once again, Hanes t-shirts and briefs pass the lasting quality test.
They don't say Hanes until I say they say Hanes.
Now on sale, men's and boys' all cotton underwear and boxers.
I refinished this beautiful piece all by myself, and I can't even change a light bulb.
A pro wanted $300 to refinish this. I did it myself for $15.
Formby's furniture refinisher can make a believer out of you because it works unlike anything you've ever seen. It dissolves old varnish lacquer shellac without stripping, sanding, or scraping. With my furniture refinisher, it's a pleasure to create a treasure.
Homer Formby. No one knows wood as good.
Many stores now have special values on my furniture refinisher.
The story from Bridgeport, Connecticut started off just like a rerun of those familiar Abscam trial tapes. But the scenario took a twist the FBI hadn't figured on, as Steve Young reports.
I think it was vicious. I really do.
Bridgeport Police Superintendent Joseph Walsh talking about the FBI's attempt to bribe him with $5,000 in $100 bills. The FBI wired a Confederate, Thomas Mara, himself a convicted car thief, with a tape recorder strapped to his leg and a transmitter hidden in a pack of cigarettes. Mara lured Walsh to a meeting in this parking lot, told Walsh he would give him a lot of money if the police superintendent returned a lucrative city car towing contract to Mara's uncle.
I trust you, you trust me. You know, I gotta do what I gotta do to get it back. You let me know what's gotta be done. Don't be.
What Mara and the FBI didn't realize was that Walsh, subject of a grand jury corruption probe, was suspicious, had himself wired with a hidden transmitter, and police were watching and recording the conversation in a building across the street.
Well, what do you want? I can come up with about 30 grand. 30 grand?
Tom Mara got out of the superintendent's car, walked up to Main Street to his own car, opened the trunk of the car, and removed an envelope from safe.
How much is here? Should be 5 in it, Joe. I'll trust you. Well, watch count. I trust you. Sure? Now put your hands on the dashboard. You're under arrest for attempted bribery. Put your hands on the dashboard.
And that was it. The FBI was caught flat-footed, stung by their own sting. There was a tussle when FBI agents moved in. Police refused to return the FBI surveillance gear, arrested Mara, and held on to the $5,000 as evidence.
That's why I'm calling for the congressional investigation.
The mayor of Bridgeport, John Mandanici, is hopping mad.
We caught them doing something illegal. As a matter of fact, I think they're arrestable. They should be in jail.
I've been on investigation for a year, and I think this was the last desperate chance to embarrass me.
How would you characterize this FBI operation?
Mickey Mouse.
The FBI office in New Haven issued a terse one-line statement. The undercover operation was approved and monitored by the U.S. Department of Justice. The police chief says if the courts approve, he'll turn the FBI's $5,000 bribe money over to charity. Steve Young, CBS News, Bridgeport, Connecticut.
That's our report for this Thursday. Until tomorrow, Dan Rather, CBS News, New York. Good night.
When you spread on Glidden, you get something beautiful to show for it.
Glidden oil stain is so good it's fit for a king and his castle.
I always stain with Glidden because it's so easy to use, right, dear? You're so good.
I didn't tell Hank I used Glidden, because then his house would look as pretty as mine.
Glidden, when you make a very good paint, it shows.
I think the craftsmanship idea was lost for a number of years, and now we see people who are proud of what they're doing. They're putting their names on the final inspections of the vehicles.
At Ford Motor Company, quality is more than a priority. Quality is job one.
I put my name right on it. So if anything goes wrong, it comes back to me.
Better and better, see what we've done. At Ford, quality is job one.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. For the latest on the deadlocked oil price meeting in Geneva, watch Morning with Charles Kuralt tomorrow. This is CBS.
A decision on Metro School desegregation plan and the opening of school is in the hands of a United States Supreme Court justice. That story next on Eyewitness News.
Car trouble? Take it to Firestone, the name you can trust.
Firestone? For car service?
That's right. Look at this week's service specials. Firestone will tune up most four-cylinder engines with electronic ignition for just $24.88. Or they'll change one fan belt for only $13.88, and you can save even more on additional belts. Firestone,